Welcome to this week's video where I will be going over winter running apparel and some tips that have helped me learn how to dress properly for whatever weather comes my way during my runs. This video I will be going over some clothing and accessories that I find really helpful to have for winter running. And I'm also going to talk about the two main tips I have for winter running and how to dress properly for cold weather running. So let's get into it. So the two biggest tips I have for dressing for winter running is 1, dress as if it is actually 5 to 10 degrees warmer outside. And that's purely because we warm up as we move. And so while we might be cold at the beginning of our run, we don't want to overheat 5 minutes into our run. I've been in the situation where I've worn too many layers and I'm a little bit uncomfortable and it can just sidetrack an entire run. So 5 to 10 degrees is the perfect amount to dress under. I like to also try and remind myself I'll bundle up, and then I'll take a moment right before I step out the door to maybe remove a layer, because I can always get a little bit overexcited about my layering. And then that leads me into tip number 2, which is layers. Layering is key for cold weather running. It's good to have a base layer, a mid layer, and a top layer. And I'm gonna get into some examples of all those layers for both our top and our bottom, and what works for me and what might work for you. So here we go. I'm gonna start with my bottoms. For a base layer, and this goes for top or bottom, for a base layer, we wanna have something that's dry wicking, so something that's not cotton. Any kind of athletic t-shirt, long sleeve shirt, merino wool is great for cold weather running. And that's purely because we don't want our sweat to just be sitting there. Cotton tends to absorb the sweat and just kind of let it be. And so we want to avoid that, because as we sweat, we cool ourselves off, and there's nothing worse than being outside and sweating and then getting really cold because you just are very sweaty. So base layer, merino wool, any athletic t-shirt or long sleeve shirt. For our mid layer, that's when we can start wearing, I like to wear maybe a quarter zip. You can start wearing another long sleeve shirt, a t-shirt, really anything. It can be a little bit heavier, so if you want to wear a light sweater or anything like that, mid layer is a good place to put it. And then our top layer is typically anything wind resistant, water resistant, just to protect us from the elements. I know for myself, wind is like the worst part of cold weather running. That when you see the feels like, and it's like a colder temperature, you know it's gonna be super windy. So let's get into gear. For my bottoms, I have one pair of merino wool leggings. I don't have to bust them out that often because I personally am a very warm runner. So I run hot. I really need to listen to the dress 10 degrees, like as if it's 10 degrees warmer, because I will overheat. So I don't often wear all of my layers, but I want to show them all to you, just so you had examples. So for merino wool leggings, I like to wear these on like the coldest of cold days if it's super windy. They're just from Costco. They feel really light, but they really do help on those cold days. And they sit really well under just a regular pair of running leggings. On the days where it might not be super cold, but it is in the minuses, like -10, -12, I like to wear a pair of leggings that have brushed fleece on the inside. So that just means rather than having like that smooth outside and that smooth inside and they're super thin, they're a little bit thicker. So they're still fairly thin, but they have just a little bit of brushed fleece on the inside, which will help keep everything a little bit warmer. And then on the cold days, I might wear my leggings with brushed fleece, and then over top, if it's really windy, I will wear a pair of joggers. These are from Nike. They're a little bit wind proofed. So in the quads, So the bigger muscles, the quads and the hamstrings and the glutes, they have a little bit of windproofing, and they have a thicker fleece on the inside. So they're extra toasty, and they're loose. So they allow me to kind of layer with thicker leggings underneath them, which is great. And that's really all I'll wear on the bottom. Like I said, if you run cold, you might want a couple more layers. You might want to do merino wool plus a regular pair of leggings plus a pair of joggers. But I find for myself, usually just a pair of leggings, good. Sometimes I'll pop on the joggers on top if it's especially windy and especially cold. Next up for our top layers, base layer, again, merino wool. I wear it every run. It's just a merino wool long sleeve shirt, again from Costco. I find them super comfortable. I stay really warm with just them and a jacket. I don't really need to go for much more unless, again, it's really cold. So in that case, I'll add in my quarter zip, which can also double as a top layer if it's not too cold. So having a quarter zip is really handy. This is from Nike. It's good. It keeps me warm. I do like the long sleeves that have the little thumb hole. I like that they come down a little bit longer. Some running tops for winter running will even have like a cuff that you can pull over as like makeshift mittens, which I really like. This one unfortunately does not, but that's okay. I do not hold it against it. Next up, and this is not something I wear, this is actually my partner's, but she likes to wear a core vest. So this is insulated. It will help keep your core super warm on those really, really cold days. And again, you can either wear this on top of your long sleeve, and this is your top layer, or you can wear it as a mid layer underneath a jacket, or you can wear it on top of your jacket. So it's finding what works best for you. And yeah, for my jacket, I like to just wear a wind resistant, water resistant track jacket. This is from Adidas. I like it fairly loose because that means I can fit as many layers as possible underneath. And that's all I'll wear. For me, layering is huge. I don't really have a really insulated piece of winter running clothing. I mainly just, if it's really cold, I just add another layer and it works well for me. But like I said, I run really warm. So if you run cold, you might want all of these layers or you might want more. So if you have a favorite piece of running apparel, a favorite top or a favorite legging, I'm always looking for new brands to check out and new pieces to look at. So if you'd like to share them by sending me an email or posting in the BOPO Run group, I would love that. Next up, and this is actually my favorite part of winter running, are the winter running accessories. We're gonna go from neck up and then we'll do hands and feet, okay? So I love buffs. I cannot live without my buff. It's a tube. You wear it as a scarf. So I run with this pretty much all the time. I like it because I can easily pull it up for when I'm getting cold and then pull it down because I inevitably overheat. And yeah, so far I've been running with just my light one, but again, for those extra cold, extra windy days, Buff does make a tube that also is fleece lined. So these are a little bit thicker. They're so warm and I love them so much that I usually wear them just when I'm out walking and in everyday life and not just when running. But this fleece one is really warm and really good for those super windy, super cold days because it's a little bit thicker and again has the fleece to help us keep warm. And then for my top, because I have short hair right now, like to wear a toque. Toques are hard for me because again, I overheat. So depending on how cold it is, I'll either run with a toque or a baseball cap because I'm worried about overheating. I do and have in the past ran with just a headband And that has been perfect, especially because I find, again, the worst part of winter running is the wind and my ears get so cold. So a headband works great too, whatever works best for you. And then again, my hands always tend to get hot. So I run with just a light pair of running gloves. They're really thin. So usually at the beginning of my run, I am always like, do I have regrets? And then usually about 5 minutes into the run, my hands are hot and sweaty. And so I no longer am thinking about that. But again, on the days when it's really cold, I like to wear these mittens over top of my thin gloves. One, because my hands run hot, so I will eventually take these off. And they're light enough that they're not going to be super warm. So they are wind resistant on the outside, they are fleece lined, and they're big enough that I can fit my hand in easily with a glove underneath. And yeah, they keep my hands super warm. Great for those super windy days. But I usually only will wear them when I have a thin pair of gloves underneath so I can put them away. Otherwise my hands will get too hot. And then for our feet, we have, and I would say I clearly, as you can see from this video, love merino wool. So I like to run with a pair of running socks that are a merino wool athletic material blend. I find they keep my toes pretty toasty. They're always a little bit thicker in the toe and the heel, and yeah, super comfortable. I've just been running with this, but again, on the days that it's super windy, because our running shoes have the mesh top layer, having a pair of toe caps like these, where it's essentially like a neoprene material, so that wetsuit material, slipping that over your toes and wearing these underneath your, over top of your socks on the inside of your shoes, can help protect against the wind a little bit. And then one thing I want to get into, and unfortunately I don't have any hard things to show you, but I will add in photos here. One thing you might want to invest in are yak tracks or grips for running on ice and snow. I know some people live in areas where it's super snowy, super icy. I find my area gets cleared pretty well, so I don't need these. So yak tracks are rubber and metal spikes that you can put over top of your running shoes in the winter, and they help to grip into the snow and ice a little bit more than just a regular running shoe. One thing I will say about yak tracks is I would recommend only wearing them in areas where you know the ice and snow is going to be pretty thick. Because I live in a neighborhood, there's a lot of sidewalks, and the ice is sometimes really thin. So when it's really thin ice, I find they don't really grip as well. So one thing to keep in mind with yak tracks. And then another option, if grips are not something you want and you want to have a pair of winter running shoes and then spring summer running shoes, a lot of brands have started making specific Gore-Tex running shoes for winter. So a Gore-Tex shoe has a layer of material underneath the mesh on the inside of the shoe that protects against water and wind. So those tend to be a little bit warmer, and I find the Gore-Tex shoes also have a little bit of an aggressive tread, similar to a trail shoe. So what I mean by that is they have, rather than a smooth rubber on the bottom, sometimes the brands will add like tiny little rubber spikes or larger lugs, which are the individual print on the bottom of a shoe. So two options for footwear. We can either add grips, so Yak Tracks is a well-known brand, or you can invest in a pair of winter running shoes. I've been running in my road shoes that I wear in the summer, and I've been okay so far. But if you feel more comfortable having these ice grips or Gore-Tex shoes, then by all means, do whatever will make your runs more comfortable, okay? And yeah, those are some of the apparel and accessories that I really like for running. My two main tips: dress as if it's 5 to 10 degrees warmer, and layers is key. And then one other thing I always like to tell people is You don't have to run if there's a blizzard. You don't have to run if there's just been an ice storm. Keeping your running schedule flexible and allowing winter to happen and then adjusting what days you run according to when there's a snowstorm is very good. We never want to put ourselves at risk of being injured or falling, and winter running can increase our risk of that. So please, if you're nervous about going outside, or if there's been a snowstorm or ice storm, wait, go the next day. Go when you notice that the sidewalks or roads are more clear. Your safety is most important, okay? So I hope you found this helpful. I hope if you needed some new winter running gear, maybe I've given you some ideas of things that you can purchase. If you have favorite apparel pieces and accessories that you love to wear in the winter, I'd love to hear about them. You can either email me or post in our BOPO run group. I'm sure everyone else would love to hear your recommendations. And yeah, that's it.